You're listening to the Veterinary Innovation Podcast.
You're listening to the Veterinary Innovation Podcast. My name is Sean Wilkie, and along with my awesome co-host, we interview the innovators in this space every week. Super excited to introduce a friend today. Ivan, please go ahead and get us started.
Hey, I'm Ivan Zach. I'm really excited about our guest today. We're going to talk about vet medicine technology and how to integrate innovative technologies into field like surgery and education. As a guest, we have Shawn Bellefeuille. And Shawn is a co founder and CEO of Med Dimensions. They specialize in surgery and education, creating tools, devices, or models to help training and clinical accuracy. Shawn also just finished his second year of vet school at Cornell University and has a background in biomedical engineering, which he studied at Rochester Institute of Technology. Shawn, welcome to the show.
Hi guys, thank you so much for having me. Really excited to be here.
So this is an exciting trend that I see. Well, not trend. I actually, you know what? You're a unicorn. Several unicorns in the veterinary industry, like our friend Adam Little, Aaron Wallace, and now you going through the vet school and building a startup, which probably results in never practicing vet medicine, which is okay. Some of us had to do it for 5, 10 years before we decided we're not going to practice vet medicine, but we're still in vet medicine because it's an awesome domain. So that's very interesting. But before we jump into this, why don't you tell us first, what do you do at Med Dimensions?
So I'm the CEO as you mentioned and the co-founder. Started this company about 4 years ago now. Really got into it during my undergrad at RIT, and basically my role right now is to do any of the clinical work, business relations, as well as fundraising. So any research projects that we're working on, trying to bring in some of the clinical minds from Cornell or our other partners, as well as reaching out to new clients, building those relationships, and doing a lot of the fundraising for Med Dimensions. So I do a lot of different roles, as both of you are aware. The CEO type position does a little bit of everything.
So the first year of vet school, they say that it's the hardest one because you learn a tremendous vocabulary. You learn a lot of Latin. You learn a lot of terms, and I can't imagine a better application of anatomy class, which never connects until the third or fourth year while you're a student, because you're learning all these bones and pieces and ligaments and arteries and everything that you can't put in your mind to practice. When is it going to be needed? And all of a sudden you can apply directly to what you do in the business. So that was I think that's quite applicable. So can you tell us what Med Dimensions do and why do I think that that's so applicable to it?
Yeah, so what we do at Med Dimensions is we have two main concentrations: surgery and education. On the surgical side, we create basically preoperative models and different tools to help surgeons be better prepared for surgery. So we take a CT scan for, let's say, an orthopedic deformity, very complex, and we actually extract this into a 3D printable model. The surgeon can, they can visualize, they can cut, they can actually practice the procedure beforehand. We push that further with cutting guides and drilling guides. Essentially, these are templates that fit perfectly on a bone and allow for more precise cuts and alignments and different things like that. We're also looking to get into the custom implant industry to try and improve implants and have them personalized for each pet. On the educational side, we create different types of models that have different components to them to practice different procedures. An example would be a chest model that we've just created. So it has skin layer, it has the ribs, it actually has an internal airbag so that you can practice doing a chest tap, extracting air from the pleural space. A lot of these different types of procedures, which we need to practice more than once before we actually do it on a real animal. So as you were saying, a lot of this, the anatomy that I learned in my first year really applied to it. During my first year, we actually did a lot more surgical type work than the educational side. So I was really excited when we got to the limbs portion of anatomy, where all the different bones and muscles, that's the kind of stuff I knew at the beginning when we were doing, the thorax or, the chest, different types of things. I was a little bit more lost, but once we got to the limbs and the skeletal portion, I was in my glory. It was awesome.
That's awesome, Sean. So, one of the things that comes up for me is like, both me and Ivan know how hard it is to run a company. And, I'm burning the candle on both ends a lot of weeks, and it's 50, 60, 70, 80 hours or all weekend, all weekend. And, it's kind of can be crazy and daunting. And I mean, you're going to vet school and running a company at the same time. You must be crazy. You must be one of us. What's it like to do that, and how you balance the running a company and going to school?
Honestly, it is really challenging. During my first year, I struggled a lot in school. It's you come into vet school, as Ivan said, they kind of throw everything at you first year. Whether it's learning terminology, learning the anatomy, I did struggle a lot at the beginning. So luckily, I have a great team that was able to help me out and help kind of balance school for me with med dimensions. So in that first year, I relied a lot on my team, who were very supportive and who were, working full time or part time for the company at that point and could handle me having to spend a little bit more time studying. But as, finished my second year, as time kind of went, I started to find this balance where I was able to, you know, work a little bit between classes, work at night, use my weekend time. And it's always about finding kind of that balance between, we know that as I'm in school, there's going to be some difficulties. I won't be able to be putting in 80-hour weeks, but there are certain doors that I can unlock as a student. I can get access to clinicians, basically by walking into the hospital. And these kinds of advantages or opportunities that I create is kind of how we balance the fact that I'm not able to be doing everything every moment of every day. So that's been really tricky, honestly, over the past 2 years to figure that out. But we've gotten to a point now where we're pretty comfortable. The team runs the business on its own. Our CTO, Will Byron, handles most of the day to day work. And then I'm able to come in with the different research projects. And then during times like the summer, like now, I'm full time working. So finding that balance has been tricky, but it's something that we've definitely achieved or at least gotten better at.
Oh, so many cool things. One is I do want to go back to what you said about the what you do. The first time I've seen this, it was in LA in Access, one of the Access hospitals, and it was really cool. They were doing these 3D printout models and guiding the drills and stuff. I remember they had this Yorkie with a vertebral fracture, and the thickness of the wall was like 1.87 millimeters, but they needed to put the K wire into it, which was like 1.2, and they made an exact model so they could hit that without touching the spinal cord. It's just amazing. So this is really cool. And the other thing, I just remember my last year or probably third year of vet school, the glass horse and there's a glass dog just appeared, and there was that's how old I am. There was a 3D model of the horse because I never knew how to rectal the horse or the cow. And so transforming the 2D into 3D and then actually trying to understand how it is really difficult. And we need to think in a lot of 3D dimensions. So having the 3D model of the horse really helped me to understand the anatomy and how to actually work with the animal. So it was incredible. So what you do there for the educational portion is also incredible. But I do want to touch on what Shawn said, that I combined my previous startup and this startup with two educations, and it was extremely hard. But I think that the success is where you are. If I was doing, I don't know, nuclear something energy and working in the
That would be
veterinary,
dangerous. That I'm not okay. Don't do that ever,
but
please.
anything, anything that is not related, getting education that is not related, I would just fail. But because I was doing my MBA when we were selling SmartFlow, and then now we're building this company, and I was doing the lead course at Stanford, it's learning by doing. So you can so much apply directly from what you're doing and learning in vet school immediately into your business, that I think it's an incredible opportunity to build it. And I think it will give you tremendous access to capital because people will see how you combine the two. Do you find that not only the doors of the professors and that sort of, the ground level of education that you can access and understand what's needed, but also other communications in the industry, that you're getting better because you can leverage this vet student plus the technology and startup position?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as you mentioned, like the professors that's, on campus, I'm able to just, speak with them, have conversations, and open some of those doors. But in the industry in general, if I reach out to somebody and I say, I'm a vet student at Cornell, I have a startup, Med Dimensions, we do 3D printing. Do you want to talk? I very rarely will have somebody be like, I don't really have time, or even just completely blow me off. So it
Awesome.
really opens doors in the industry. And working in this industry is also, it's very close knit and people are very supportive with each other. We initially, when we had this idea of the 3D printing models, we looked at the human field as well. We tried to reach out to a couple of doctors for, customer discovery and kind of learning about the process. We didn't get anywhere. We talked to 2 or 3 vets in the same period of time. It was super easy. They each gave us 45 minutes of their time, even though they were busy surgeons. So we've had a lot of support in this field, and then the fact that, they view me as part of that community as well has been something that's really helped and really opened doors for sure. We recently were on a call with a surgeon at, one of the main things is the reason to why he wanted to support and work with us is because it was a vet student that had started this company. And
Hmm.
that's what he mentioned. He's like, I could probably find another company or another place to kind of get some of this work done, but you're one of us, you're one of the in the veterinary community, and I want to support that. So that was really powerful and very interesting.
Yeah, it's an amazing community to start a company in. It's incredibly supportive, and vets are some of the kindest people to work with I've ever met. So yeah, good industry to pick. So Shawn, I got two questions for you. First is, what was the origin story? Like, how did this thing all kick off? Where did it happen, or what happened?
So basically, me and a couple of my classmates in undergrad, we were all studying engineering. We just loved 3D printing. So we started this club called Bioprint. And basically, we said, okay, we have some skills in 3D printing. Let's see how we can help people. So we started off just kind of putting that out there. Anybody in the community need help, whether it's maybe a prosthetic for a pet, some sort of device for a human, we'd love to work on projects. So we got a couple of veterinary projects that actually came in, a couple prosthetic projects that we worked on. That was really cool. But one particular project that came in was kind of what started Med Dimensions. We had a local veterinary surgeon that reached out to us. I had this really tough case. It's an orthopedic angular limb deformity. I'm not really sure how to approach it. I have a CT scan. Is there any way you could build me a model? And we're like, yeah, of course. And, we have no idea what we're doing. We're just getting started with this. But, we put in some time and some effort and reached out to some local resources. And we were able to actually get that model. The surgeon then goes, want to come watch the surgery? We're like, yeah, absolutely. So, we go in and watch the surgery. He's prepped with this model. He's like marked it up there. The bone's got the marks on it for where he's going to make this cut. But in the middle of the surgery, he goes, somebody give me the model. So we watch as an assistant rushes over, gets the model, and he actually holds it and refers to the model when he makes those cuts on the ankle for the angular limb deformity correction. That moment was really powerful, for me, because it's one of the moments that made me decide that I wanted to go to vet school and that really wanted to continue down this path. But as for Med Dimensions, I was like, wow, like, why isn't this available for everyone? And that's really where we, just kind of hit the ground running.
That's amazing. Such a cool story. The origin story of most people wanting to be a vet doesn't happen during undergrad. It's normally like way before.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. It's the first time we've heard that. And then the next question I had is, where is this thing going to be at in 5 years? What's the big, bold vision of where you're going to take the company?
Yeah, we're hoping to just kind of push in both surgery and education. We really want to get into the implant game. We have a kind of a unique way of looking at, I guess, implants in general. Is we look from the animal directly instead of looking kind of a trickle down from the human field. A lot of these larger companies will just say, oh, this works in the human field. How can I apply it to animals? We kind of start with the animal. We have an AI based software that basically analyzes scans and can detect specific regions or specific anatomical locations that might be prime for implants. So we're looking to kind of build on that and develop different implants for, breed specific. You look at a bulldog or a greyhound and, there's a fracture on the mandible, on the jaw. That can't have the same type of implant that works for both. There's such different types of anatomical features. So we really want to get into implants and build out different types for different animals. And on the educational side, we want to continue to push these simulation models to decrease the use of cadavers. We want to be able to have these models to be used instead of having to go to a cadaver lab or even having to use a real live anesthetized pet. You want to be able to practice beforehand. So integrating those models with VR and AR technologies to really completely immerse you in this world is what we're really going to try and do and continue to grow in that.
That's awesome.
That's really cool. I love the story how you were solving the problem. And it's sometimes some startups come from curiosity, like yourself, and then you're trying to you embrace the 3D printing. Some come from frustration or the lack of something. Like I built SmartFlow because there was a process that I thought that was really inadequate. Some come from Shawn not knowing how to write. or spell. So he had to create a dictation software. So that's another problem that he's solving right now. But what are the products? Because we talked about what you do, but can you build a picture for people that and where to find you if you're already selling the product? What is it? What can you buy today? Or is there a product and you're maybe still in a prototype phase? Where are you at and where people can find information?
You can check it out on our website, med-dimensions.com. We kind of have our overview there. But basically, I've been breaking it down to surgery and education. I'll do the same thing right now. So for surgery, the products are basically a preoperative model. So from the CT scan, we extract the patient data and create a model, or we go a step further and create those guides. Those are both things that we have available today. We work with essentially on a case per case basis. On the educational side, we're in the process of creating a library of a bunch of different types of educational models. I mentioned the chest model. That's something that's available today. We have a couple different tissue simula models for suturing, an airway model to practice bronchoscopy, different types of models that are available. We do a ton of custom work, and that's really where we get the most of our business. Oh, I need a model to practice this procedure. I want a spay and neuter model. These are a lot of things that we're working on. So we do custom work, and then we're also building up that library of different, basically educational models that will be available. We currently have, between 5 and 10. We're hoping to continue to just grow that every year, basically.
So, Shawn, what's next for the company? In the coming months, what's going to happen?
In the fall, we'll be kind of in a growth phase where we'll be looking for different partners to bring in capital. So that's kind of where we'll be doing most of the fall to about Christmas time. So that's kind of our plan, just to continue to expand the team, expand our offering, and just scale up.
That's awesome. So if there are groups out there like Vein, which I'm a part of, and want to learn more about the innovation that is happening within the Med Dimension company, or just to learn what Shawn is doing in the near future, then please reach out to him. What is the best way to reach out to you?
Either on LinkedIn is a great way, or our website. There's a ton of different contact info on there for us.
Excellent. Well, we ran out of time as usual. Shawn, I'm so thrilled to see what you're doing. It's needed for education. It's needed for surgery. I think there's a huge, huge future in what you're doing, and the way you're approaching it is just shining with success down the road. So I'm really rooting for you and hope everything goes well.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys having me on here. This has been awesome.
So, Shawn, just a couple of questions before we wrap up. We'd like to end every episode in the same way. So, first one is a book, a YouTube video, a TED Talk, something that you found inspiring on your path so far.
Awesome. So, I'm actually going to talk about a YouTube channel. So, it's called Rise of the Phoenix. And basically, what it is kind of an intro to 3D printing and a lot of the different tools or kind of issues that you run into. Mike, who runs the page, is actually the husband of Dr. Megan Sprinkle, who works for Royal Canin. And that's kind of how we got connected at one of these conferences. And it's just an awesome page. And it talks about a lot of the basics of 3D printing and things that you might not know. 3D printing is both simple and extremely complicated. A lot of people will get discouraged if it doesn't work initially. But he's got a lot of these little tips, the filament, the different materials, the little tools that you need. And it's just awesome for beginners to inspire them to really get into it. That's how I started. I had a printer. I messed around with it till I could figure it out. I can't imagine how much easier my life would have been if I had this YouTube page. So it's called Rise of the Phoenix.
That's awesome. And the second question that we usually ask, is there a guest that you think would be interesting to our listeners to be invited to this show?
Yeah, one of my classmates at Cornell, Michelle Greenfield, she has a startup, an equine startup, and she also works on it's called the Aqueduct podcast, which is kind of like more in the fish, the marine industry.
Thank you so much for listening to the Veterinary Innovation Podcast. If you want to hear about our new episodes, please follow us on any social media channel. Also, you can check out our website at veterinarynnovationpodcast.com. See you next week.